speech. And about provide a conversational interface. This interface could be in a website, it could be in application, it could be in our Teams, for example. And bot can help us to make some repetitive tasks, to automate some action that we use. And we can imagine a user that will connect to a bot for ask some question, or in Teams or in other type of channel. There are three kinds of chatbot. The first is bot framework. We have a Q&A maker and we have Power Virtual Agent. There are three different bot creation tools, and these are very important to understand how we, when we have to choose bot framework, or when we have to choose Q&A maker, or when we have to choose Power Virtual Agent. Bot framework is Azure Bot Service and bot framework, and it gives us the tool for build, test, and deploy, and manage intelligent bots all in one place. And is a very interesting tool that can help us to create a bot very vertical and very integrated with other service that maybe we could have inside our organization. We can integrate with understand natural language, and we can use in some particular ways that we see after. The second is Q&A maker. Q&A maker is an Azure-based question and answer service. It's a service that can help us to create some conversation based on question and answer. For example, we can use a Q&A maker to find the most appropriate answer to any input from our custom knowledge base of information. How we can do that? Simple, uploading one document inside the service, and the bot automatically understand that there are some answer to some question. The third is Power Virtual Agent. Power Virtual Agent is integrated inside the Power Platform world, and the Power Platform world is based as inside three kinds of service, that is Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate. But also there is another one that is Power Virtual Agent. Power Virtual Agent permit us to create some chatbot that can use a conversational form. We can create some chatbot with no code, but with with a graphical interface that is very useful. And we can create chatbot with a very simple process. After we try to create a chatbot and we understand what are the peculiarities about this service versus the bot framework. One important aspect that we need to consider when we create a chatbot, when we want to create a chatbot, are the interactions. The interactions are the solution that permit us to resolve some business problem. This process is important because help us to understand what kind of chatbot we need to choose for solve our problems. I like to remember that when we want to create a chatbot, we want to solve a problem inside our organization. There are many differences between successful bot or not successful bot. The successful bot is a bot that solve our problem with the minimum number of steps, or is a bot that is permitted to user to solve his problem better, easier, faster than any of alternative experience, and is a service that permit the user to use from phone, use from his smartphone, use from the website, is integrated inside our website. When a bot is not successful, when it's not smart, or if he supported the natural language is in a not simple way, is not very successful if he has if it has a voice, because is very difficult to integrate a voice inside this world. The importance of interaction is very important, because this is a point that make the difference between a good bot or a bad bot. In this slide, you see two different kinds of approach of a chatbot. The positive approach is a proactive chatbot that permits to user and guide the user inside the conversational process. In fact, there is a very big difference between a not recommended bot and a recommended bot. If we try to test our bot, the first sentence that we write inside the chat is, "Hi, how are you?" But in the real world, the users expect to a tool that guide there in this process. We'll see that in this case, we have our bot that give three opportunities to user to select where they want to go, where they want to go to analyze and in this conversational flow. In this step, the user is alone. He don't know where he doesn't know what are the action that the bot has inside. And this is very important to understand. The importance of interaction is the difference between the normal interaction and the bot interaction. In the normal interaction, we have our screen. We have, for example, a new order screen, and we have a product search screen. In the bot interaction, we have a root dialog, a product search dialog. We have another kind of a workflow and another kind of user experience. The importance of the conversational flow is the first step to take in consideration when we want to create a chatbot. This is the difference that can help us to understand if you use Power Virtual Agent, if you use QA, if you use a bot framework or Azure Bot Service. It's important to understand where we have to, what is the correct experience for our customer. So I suggest you to make a very useful UX analysis for understanding the customer needs. In this slide, you can see some particularly cards that are used in the bot framework world. As you can see, after in the Power Virtual Agent world is a little bit different, but we have a different kind of interaction. But it's also interesting to understand this world. Well, and the first that we will see is a Power Virtual Agent that can help us to build no-code conversational bot. And the Power Virtual Agent is a tool that helps us to create a very simple bot. And we can use also, we can insert also in this bot some particularly pieces of artificial intelligence that is very, very interesting. So let's go to see. Okay. This is the first page of our Power Virtual Agent chatbot. As you can see, we have inside in the left, we have this sample menu that can help us to understand the arguments, the entity. We can make analysis from our conversational flow. We can publish our bot, and we can manage our bot with the publishing, the security, with the definition of the channel, for example, and with the integration with artificial intelligence. There is also a point of contact between the Power Virtual Agent and the Power Bot framework. For example, we can create some skills inside the Power Bot framework, inside the bot framework, and we can put inside the Power Virtual Agent world. And it's a very, very interesting feature that we can see maybe in the future section. I don't think that I can see you today. And if we go inside the arguments, we can find some particular topic that are already defined inside our bot. Let's see what are these. For example, we have one simple topic that is lesson 1, a simple topic. Go inside and let's see. The interface is similar to Power Automate interface. We have the possibility to create some phrase, some trigger phrase for guide the user inside our conversational flow. Try to understand. In this interface, we also have this particularly window that is a test bot. We can test our bot. What I have to do, I have right inside store hours. That is one of the phrase trigger of this topic. Using store hour, we trigger this topic, and we can guide the user inside our topic. For example, I write store hours, and the chatbot responds me with I'm happy to help with the store hours. If here I put inside thanks, for example, we can restart and we can retest our bot store hours. Is immediately. One other aspect very important is that we can simply clicking inside our chat. We can we have our UI that help us to find the correct step in where we are working. This is very useful in case we have inside our topic a very large conversational flow that is very difficult to navigate to understand. This topic is very interesting, but because it can help us to understand the importance of the message, that is this window, and the importance of the end of conversation. End of conversation is a simple step that give to chatbot the send to chatbot the signal that the conversation, the topic is closed. So there isn't anything else to ask or to interact of this topic. Try to make one topic. We can define the trigger phrase inside the first. For example, our virtual. This is one trigger phrase. We can try to make another trigger phrase that can be our virtual agent presentation, for example. It's not necessary to create a topic of the same type. For example, in these two phrases, I use Power Virtual Agent for understand the topic, the central point of the topic. But we can use, for example, another type of sentence. What kind of bot? In our test window, we can make some tests. Try Power Virtual Agent. But there is one problem. In fact, our bot doesn't understand our sentence. Why? Because we haven't saved our trigger phrase. Okay. There is one problem. We needed to insert one message. Our virtual agent is very cool. And say, and we can try to insert this phrase here. Okay. Our virtual agent is very cool. But what we can do now, we can make a question. Do you like? It's a very interesting thing because we can make a question to our user and we can permit him to make to choose a response that can be yes or no. Or we can identify a Boolean response that we can true or false, for example, but we can use some other information that are the definition of the entities. What are entities? Let me make a step back for understand better this thing. Save. And we go to entities. What are entities? Entities are very interesting things that can help us to understand inside our conversation some particular entities for use in the conversational flow with the user. For example, we can understand the age, we can understand the city, a color, a continent, the date and the hour, an email, an event, a language, a money, a currency, a organization, a name, a person name, an address, a URL, and everything else that you can find here. And then you can also create a new entity. For example, we can ask to our user to tell us what is the age, his age. And we can pick up this value and use inside our flow, for example. Let's come back to this. We was in the state in where in the task of question. So we have to define the response of our user. We can use the multiple choice where we can specify yes or no. As you can see, we have the definition of three conditions: if yes, if no, or all other conditions. If yes, we can call an action. For example, we can create directly one flow in Power Automate flow, or we can show a message. Good, thanks. And we can decide three different flows on the base of the response to our sentence. In this case, we can terminate the conversation. We can make another question. For example, why? Why? And ask simple why. And then we can pick up all the response of the user. We can save in a variable, and we can use this variable. For example, in this case, we can define the variable name of all the sentence right from the user. Var for example. We can decide of the usage of this sentence. For example, in this case, if we have a user that write a sentence where he explains us why he doesn't like Power Virtual Agent in this case, and we can pick up this sentence, and we can use only inside this topic, or we can use all inside all the topic of the chatbot. It's very important because we can save a var inside there, and we can use inside our other conversational flow. It's very, very interesting. And it could be possible only to define if we want to the usage of this flow. Okay, we save. But when we finish the flow, we had the end of the conversation. It's very, very simple. If we have to understand the flow, it's very important, for my experience, to understand that when we use Power Virtual Agent, we have to have created inside our minds all the conversational flow that is useful for what we want to do. And this is very important. Try to make some tests. What kind of code? Power Virtual Agent is very cool. Do you like? No. Why? Because I like bot framework. we have passed away. We have go in the next step. So did that answer your question? We can explain yes or no. In this case, but we have a var user defined. Try to make also the other flow, because we can try all that we want. Yes, response is good. Thanks. Okay. One other aspect, and now I share the virtual the slides, is that we can empower our subject matter expert. We can use Power Virtual Agent, create some flow that is very, very simple to create. So if we need to express the pro and cons of this technology, the pro is obviously the sample possibilities to create a conversational flow in very, very fast way. It's obvious that we need to create the right solution on the base of our conversational flow. And we can also take action, I showed you before, because in this case, we can also define a new action in where we can call something external. For example, we can have an input from our Power Virtual Agent that could be text, a boolean, or a number, and we can make some other action inside our Teams, or we can send a mail. We can integrate with other. We can use our connector, our personal connector, and we can return a value directly inside our flow in Power Virtual Agent. So another important aspect is that it's very integrated, this word inside the Power Platform, and we can after use inside our flow. Another aspect is we can also call an action inside Power Automate and integrate with another aspect of artificial intelligence, for example. One important things after the entity that I explained you before is the analysis step. The analysis step is the integration of the Power BI world inside our chatbot. Why is so important? Because this dashboard can give us the opportunity to understand how our conversational flow are working. We can see the total session, the tags of the interaction, the results of the session, if the user used the session, completed all the session, or leave the session. It's very important to understand if our conversational flow is correct or not correct. And we can also understand the satisfaction of our customer. We can understand the key factor inside our sessions. We can understand the response text. We can analyze the section, and we can download the section inside a common separated value element. And we have the interaction flow with the session ID and all the step inside the conversation. Another aspect very important is the part of the publication, because the part of the publication is the step where we leave our bot to the world. The management is important because we have the part of the data where we can define the name, we can make an icon, we can integrate the metadata of the bot, create a manifest. In this item, we can go to define what are the channel of the publication. So we can publish our bot inside Microsoft Teams, inside a website, a simple demo, a simple web demo, a site, a personal website, mobile, Facebook, Skype, Cortana, Slack, and Twilio, Telegram, and other one. It's very, very important this because we can publish in very simple way and with only active the tool, the channel, and our Power Virtual Agent tool simply go to define, give us the opportunity to publish in this channel. Very interesting. We can go also inside. We can modify the icon, modify the color, and make some description. And we can make a definition and modify our data. There are also another important aspect that is the transfer of the flow to an agent. For example, if we have a bot inside our website that after a conversational flow doesn't permit to our customer to solve this question, it could be possible to define the transfer to a user inside our organization, and we can transfer all the conversation and all the conversational flow to a user inside our organization that can help our customer to find the correct answer to his questions, for example. The security aspect is very, very important because we can invite some other people to collaborate in our bot. We can validate the step of authentication. For example, if we use a bot that need to show information about the user inside our organization, maybe we wanted to be sure that this user can insert the username and password for login inside our tenant. Or if we want to make security in our channel web, we wanted to recreate our secrets, or we wanted to define some particular context of our bot. Another aspect that I tell you before is the part of the skills, that we can add some skills from directly manifest URL we can add to our bot. There are also some particular functionality about artificial intelligence that can relate the server, the argument can relate the possibility that one argument go to another argument, and there are all tools. These are all tasks that are in preview, and so there are some better, some kind of tool that can improve the workflow experience inside the bot. This is very, very interesting tool. Another aspect that we need to consider is the pro and the cons. If we can talk about the pro, we have to remember that is a tool that permit us to create a chatbot with no-code graphical interface. And this is very important because if we wanted to use a bot framework, we start from a solution inside the Visual Studio. Yes, there is another tool that we will see after that is similar, but it's not the same. But you need to learn some aspect before that are very important. I suggest you also if we use our virtual agent and bot framework, I suggest to understand how chatbot interact with the user, because it's a very important step. So the pro is that we do not need data scientists for NLP, and we minimize the effort, the ET effort, and we eliminate the gap between the experts and all the development teams for building a bot. What are the cons? Well, if we have some conversational flow that is very, very hard, or if you want a proactive chatbot, well, it's not obviously with our virtual agent maybe couldn't be the correct choice, the correct solution. And if we have some complex scenario, so we maybe I suggest you to use bot framework. But bot framework is we have integrated development environment that is similar, but is not the same. In fact, we have the bot framework composer that is an integrated development tool that can help us to create and manage our conversational experience. And when two years ago I started to use a bot framework composer, it wasn't a application. It was a complete application. Maybe after 2 years, I can the tool is go away from the preview, and is very, very important to use. This is a bot framework composer. We have this sample, this very, very useful UI. We can create a new bot. We have some templates, so we can use an empty bot or a core bot with the language, a core bot with the Q&A maker. That it was a sample that a bot type that I tell you before. We can use a core system bot, and we can use obviously enterprise system bot or calendar bot or enterprise people bot. Inside we can see what we need, because in fact, if we have, for example, an enterprise people bot, is a bot that interact with other users of our organization inside Office 365. And we have to use a Microsoft Graph, so we have to add these following scopes inside our step. In this case, I use an empty bot only to show the sample of this. And we can, when we create a bot with bot framework, we create a project that can use a part of Azure Function or an Azure Web App. Why this? Because essentially the bot is an entity, is a tool inside a project, inside an app service. and you need to compute platform to understand to manage the conversational flow. If we use Azure Function, it's very, very small. If we wanted to use Azure Web App, it's more simple. In this case, we try test bot and we create. It's getting the template and now it's creating all we need. There is Bot Composer, Bot Framework Composer is a desktop application that is you can use also in Windows, Mac, also on Linux. There is also a web-based component that is the first it was the first application in the preview, I remember. And another interesting way to understanding the bot flow is the part in where we want to integrate with other contexts. In fact, if we want to integrate with the Office 365 Word, is we want to integrate, for example, with our SharePoint. We want to integrate. You can do with the Power Virtual Agent, and you can do also in bot frame. What are the differences? That for starting this test bot, I need another competencies, another skills that when I start the Power Virtual Agent bot, it wasn't necessary. And so, if we need to understand what kind of bot choose, we have to understand if we want local integration or we want a strong integration. If we need to deploy, we need to publish in some particular way. We need to understand or to study the tool that we can use. It's very, very important to understand. We'll see this UI that is similar, but we have some particular sample. We have a good tool of a product tour that can help us to understand all the steps. Now I leave. And we have the same flow. If you see, we have the same. We have this greeting conversational activity in where we can make a flow. But this flow is more complex from the Power Virtual Agent. So you need to understand the importance of the condition. You need to understand the importance of the response. You need to define the unknown, for example, the intent. These are different intent that can give us the opportunity to define some particular conversational flow on the intent base. Also inside we can configure our bot, so we can personalize the step of the Azure Language Understanding, the Q&A maker. We can define the application ID. We can make a connection to external flow. We can have a skill configuration, the localization that is very important. We can try to define the part of the user input where we can use entity like Power Virtual Agent. If you remember, we have also in Power Virtual Agent the context of the entity. we have also here. We can define a machine learning entity. It's very, very useful. We can also define the activity on the bot response. We can define a knowledge page for Q&A, where we can create a test Q&A. Because we can create from a URL, and we can explain the English, the language type. We can publish after our bot, and we can use the package manager for install some packages inside our bot. For example, if we want to install some packages about the bot world, you can install. It's very, very useful. Another aspect is the importance of test. So we have another tool that is not integrated inside the bot framework composer, but we have the bot framework emulator, where we can open a bot from our URL. That is, in this case, if we create a bot, we create a bot in a localhost context, and we can test it directly in this tool. It's very, very interesting because we can also understand, review the design guidelines that I suggest you to read. It's very interesting. We can test it with the emulator, we can test in web chat, and you can test your bot very, very simple way. And in this case, that is, we created a bot, we have the possibility, we have two errors. Okay, we don't need the language understanding key, but I'm so sorry, but I don't have. And is a very interesting tool because we have the same interaction. We can send a response, we can ask a question, we can create a condition, we can make a loop, we can make some loop inside our flow. And this is the very, very cool tool that we can create dialogue on the basis of what we need. For example, we can begin a new dialogue, and we can go an action for this dialogue. We can create a property. We can send connected to a skill or send an HTTP request. And we can also create a no-out login. We can sign out the user. It's very useful. For example, if we have a conversational flow inside Teams and we needed to read the some calendar appointment of a user, we need the permission. We needed to authenticate the user for go to pick up this information. It's very, very interesting. We also connected to Q&A knowledge base, sign out, and send an end-off activity. We have also the possibility to debugging. So if we compare, we see that this tool is a tool that can give us the opportunity to control all the world of our chatbot. However, we need to study how is the world of the backend of the chat. In the Power Virtual Agent solution, we go to consider a factor that we want to create something that is very, very fast, something that is very, very useful for us. We don't want a code. we don't want to use the condition, and obviously all the conversational flow and all the aspect is need to be studied and need to be understand before to apply. It's very, very useful to the configuration because it gives us the opportunity to embed our chatbot inside our tenant in Azure, so we can go to define all the resources, the connection, the skills, and the bot responses, and go on. Is a very, very, very good instrument that gives us the opportunity to use a very strong feature about our chatbot. There is also the possibility to integrate, in fact, the language generation. In fact, in the bot response, we can define all the connection with the language understanding. So we can use the UIs and we can integrate inside our flow. So if we have to understand what are the pros and the cons of the bot framework, the pro is the use of the adaptive dialogue and the generation. We can use it in a very simple way, and this is I think that is very important for the conversational flow actually. There is a composer that eliminates the boilerplate code and makes bot development more accessible. Is sure, but obviously it doesn't mean that you can use bot framework composer without any skills. But Power Virtual Agent is you can use Power Virtual Agent in a very simple way. And it's very, very important, this sentence, that you no longer need to navigate between experience to maintain the UX model, as it is editable within the app. In the preview version, it was very, very difficult to maintain the UX model, and it's very, very difficult to maintain the version of the new model. So it's very simple now. You can integrate inside bot framework composer, and the tool can give us the opportunity to save first step to set up our environment. It's simple to publish our bot. Obviously, when the composer publish the bot is not a very simple task, but maybe is a tool that helps us to not to set up our environment manually. Cons. It could be difficult to use for sample chatbot. If you need to create a sample chatbot for guide the customer inside a simple conversational flow, maybe Power Virtual Agent could be the good choice, the good solution for you. If you want to use a chatbot that integrate with all the work that you have with, for example, if you have CRM, internal CRM, if you need if you have some other tool, is more simple. Is more simple to do with bot framework composer, and you have all the possibility to integrate with what you want. if there is an API or there is some other asset you can create and you can integrate. Power Virtualization you can do with the connection with the Power Platform, but you need obviously to understand that in an enterprise scenario this could be difficult to maintain, and is very, very important. Well, I arrive at the end. I wanted to give you my contacts. These are my GitHub, but these are my Twitter and LinkedIn. I want to say goodbye. I want to thank you for staying with me in this session, and I want to say thanks all the organization, and thank you everybody, and bye. See you on the next time.